Observatory on critical raw materials for energy. Today we are with the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. Thank you, Erika, from the Sustainable Energy Division to join us and to showcase their activities and their data and perspective from their observatory on the topic you see projected on the screen. This is a new appointment of the series of webinar we are managing with OIMCE, providing a sort of international perspective on the topics related to CRM for energy. We had one with International Energy Agency before summer break, and we are happy to bring here again another relevant international voice on that topic. So thank you all for joining, and please, Giuseppe, and then we can start with the presentation.
Yes, Paolo, thank you. No, I won't take too many minutes as an introduction, just to say that I thought that what the UNECE, the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe, is doing, among other things, on critical raw materials for energy may be very interesting for our observatory membership. I think that we will see this in this introductory presentation, where our colleagues will talk about and introduce the activities that they are undertaking on critical raw materials. Both because, as Paolo said, this can give, as it was requested by the observatory members, also an international perspectives on critical raw materials, but also because they are capable of deepening certain aspects, like I think, for example, geological aspects concerning critical raw materials. So I think that what they can tell us can also be interesting for those who are potentially interested in investing in critical raw materials. Well, I think that I have not much more to say, so I will give the floor to UNECE colleagues. I think that there will be a number of them who will be speaking today, so I will leave to them to introduce themselves before starting. Thank you very much once again, and thank you for everybody for participating. I see that there are quite a number of people who are connected.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Just a note, the meeting, the webinar will be recorded, and the slide deck will be shared with participants together with a brief note regarding what will emerge from the debates. After the presentation from UNECE, there will be hopefully the space for some questions that you can also pose via chat. Thank you. Erika, please.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for introducing us to participate in this webinar about our work. My name is Erika Ingvald, and I'm an Economic Affairs Officer with the UNECE. Since 1 year back, you probably know my colleague who retired from this position, Slavko Solar. So I came in after him, following his work. And I'm a geologist by training, and my previous position was with the Geological Survey of Sweden, and I've been there for 17 years. In the end, I was head of department for mineral resources. And I've been working with UNFC since, I think, 10 years now. So that's a little bit about my background. I brought with me a few colleagues who are contributing a lot, and I let them introduce themselves when it's their time to speak. But we thought it would be nicer to have a few voices from our side than just me talking. So now I'm trying to switch slides. Yes, as you heard, this event will be recorded. If you have a question, please raise your hand. And I trust the Italian colleagues to look out for the hands, because we don't see you now. And to use chat function if you have comments or questions, and be muted if you're not speaking. So that's it for housekeeping. So we're going through a lot of things today. We are going to be quite fast, but as you heard, we leave the presentation with you so you can look into stuff deeper, and always reach out to us with questions if there are any. We're always open for questions and discussions. So I'll start with introducing the Economic Commission and our division, where we do most of the work with critical raw materials. And after me, it's Victoria, who's going to introduce UNECE, Min Woo, to introduce OIMCE, which is another one of our tools. And then Gadi will talk about how those tools work in EU and Italy. And at the end, our colleague Clara will tell you a little bit about our new knowledge hub, that is a place where we collect training materials for both those who are new to this and those who are more experienced. So let's get started. What's going on now? Yeah. So our division then, where we work, we're part of the United Nations Secretariat, and we function under the Economic and Social Council. There are 5 regional commissions globally that we collaborate with quite closely. And those economic commissions are partners with us in distributing UNFC and UNRMS, the tools that you're going to hear more about. UNFC is the one included in the Critical Raw Materials Act. So we are part of the General Secretary's Secretariat, so close to the core. But as you can see on this picture, the UN is quite a big organization with a number of different functions and organizational pieces. So just to show you where we are in this puzzle. And here you can see where the economic commissions, the other ones, are located. Ours was set up in 1947 by ECOSOC. And the place you see without any letters to it, that's of course New York, where the other headquarters is. What this piece of the organization aims at is to promote pan-European economic integration. And we have 56 member states in Europe, North America, and Asia. And as you know, we collaborate with all the other economic commissions, but also interested UN member states that are not part of UNECE are always welcome to participate in our work. And we have collaboration with over 70 international, professional, and non-governmental organizations that we work with. And we are based in Geneva. The work or areas of expertise at UNECE is quite broad, I would say. We're one of the smallest economic commissions, but the capacity and the competence is very broad. So you probably run into stuff that has originated here, all of you. If you just look at, what did I look at now? Transport, you know, the stoplights that you see out in traffic, the convention of having the red, yellow, and light green is something that's under one of our it's been developed through the work here between a number of countries. But there are a lot of things, trade, statistics, environment, and all of these are, of course, support. It's very good to have them in-house because raw materials concerns almost everything that we deal with in every day. What am I doing? Okay. So what we deal with here in our division, Sustainable Energy Division, is, and this is a small piece of what our division is doing, is to foster sustainable resource management. Other areas we work with within the division is when it comes to sustainable energy, is to promote convergence in legal, regulatory, and policy frameworks, energy efficiency and conservation. We have a focus on natural gas as a transition fuel to bridge the gap, and to greening the coal to energy chain so that it becomes more sustainable, more CO2 neutral. And work with, so this week we had the Sustainable Energy Week, and where we're addressing a lot of those issues, but also issues related to power grids and interconnectivity, things like that. So we have, apart from the expert group of resource management that we work closely with, we have 5 other expert groups that are focused on these areas. And yes, as I said, the tools we have to work with sustainable resource management are UNECE and UNRMS, and they go far beyond Europe because ECOSOC has recommended those tools for global use. And they are also incorporated in the UN Secretary General's panel on work on energy critical minerals. And UNECE is mandated through the Critical Raw Materials Act in the EU. And we also work with a number and support the buildup of a number of international centers of excellence on sustainable resource management globally. And this is all to implement a principle-based integrated management framework for those raw materials. Yes. And as I said, the expert group out of these 6 that works with those tools, UNECE and UNRMS, is the expert group on resource management, where we gather experts from, I think it's over 200 experts that works actively with these tools that are applicable to all energy and mineral resources, to injection projects, and are used widely for all those purposes. What we're doing here together with all those experts is to make sure that there are known ways on how to apply the tools to different kinds of resources. And one important thing with UNRMS is that it incorporates something that is quite modern in our days, resource servitization, which means that you borrow resources or you hire resources, but you don't own them as much. So this is a way to use resources in a more efficient way when we don't have so much of them as we would like. Over 300 experts even to contribute to this work. We have over 20 working groups and task forces to advise EGRM and the intergovernmental body, the Committee on Sustainable Energy, that has its meeting this week. And the membership, I think that could be interesting for you, is open to anyone that is interested in sustainable management of resources. And the next time we have one of those big meetings with the expert group on resource management is next April, and everyone is welcome to join, of course. Our structure is quite complicated with all those 300 people. You can see on this slide different topics that those working groups that we have worked with. What you would be most interested in, I think, is minerals and anthropogenic resources, but probably also cross-cutting things like competency, gender, SDG delivery, and so on and so forth. Something that we are really strong on is our youth group. We have a very large but also very competent youth group that is contributing immensely to the work of this expert group. So they are our pride and joy. You can apply UNECE to a number of things, including exploration, extraction, mining, processing, manufacturing, in-use, recycling, and reuse. And it gives us a way to, let's say, have a common language for dealing with the resource management across all those fields and across all those resources globally, between countries and between regions. And I mentioned earlier, we have those ICE SRMs that are building capacity in different parts of the world with those tools that we have and all the thinking that's behind these tools. On this map, you see where they are located, the ones that are starting to build up now, but more, I think, are in the pipeline. So that was a very short introduction on where we are with the where we are in the world and in the.
Thank you, Erica.
Is
it okay? Okay. So my name is, good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Oliver, and I'm supporting the EGRM Secretariat as a consultant. So I will now briefly introduce you to UNFC. But before starting, is it working?
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. But before getting into UNFC, I would like a picture, which is sustainable resource management, as Erica mentioned, is the area of our activities. So sustainable resource management balances the need for economic development with the preservation of the environment and the well-being of future generations. And in order to fulfill the requirements, we need a lot of information. And this information needs to be relevant, consistent, transparent, and comparable. And we also need to classify it in order to easily understand how resources are managed, what type of resources we have, and what is going on during the different levels. But classifying has its challenges. Its main challenges is how to classify. As we can see here with this old records example, the challenge is how to classify, if by artist, by composer, by instruments, and this same challenge, we have it with classifying natural resources.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you anymore.
So,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes, now, yes.
Okay. So who needs resource classification? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the users? So here we have a different set of stakeholders. We have the governments that needs the resource classification for management of national resources. We also have industry to provide data and information necessary to deploy technology, management, and finance. We also have the financial community, civil society, and creators of energy and mineral studies. So now, yes, getting into UNFC and how it works and what is it. So UNFC is a resource project and principles-based classification system based on 3 fundamental criteria to develop resources. So these 3 fundamental criteria are the E-axis that we have here as the vertical axis, which looks at the environmental, socioeconomic viability. Then we have the F-axis that describes the technical feasibility of projects. And finally, we have the G-axis that is the degree of confidence in product estimates. So these 3 categories, these 3 factors help UNFC to determine whether a project is viable or not and to what extent a project can be developed. So by combining these 3 categories, UNFC determines a class, and the classes can be by a viable project, a potentially viable project, or a non-viable project. So these are the 3 main classes, but we also have other classes such as prospective projects and so on. So basically, by combining these 3 axes, UNFC classifies projects within a structured way by combining, by using a numerical coding system and placing projects within this 3-dimensional cube. So to provide a little bit more of details about the categories, projects are usually classified first according to the E-axis, followed by the F-axis, and then the G-axis. So as I mentioned before, the E-axis is the degree of favorability of environmental, social, and economic conditions in establishing the viability of the project, and it includes consideration of market prices and relevant legal, regulatory, social, environmental, and contractual conditions. And here, with the E-axis, we have 3 categories. The one being the best, the most desirable, that is when development and operation are confirmed to be environmentally, socially, economically viable. And an important point here is that definitions should always be read in conjunction with supporting explanation. And in order to provide more granularity, we not only have categories, but we also have subcategories. In the case of the E-axis, we have 1.1, 1.2. For E2, we don't have subcategories defined. And then we have 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. I won't provide more details for the sake of time, but you will have the presentation, the slides, and if you have questions, you can ask later. So now moving to the F-axis, as I said before, it's the technical feasibility. So the maturity, it looks at the maturity of technology, studies, and commitments necessary to implement the project. And these projects range from early conceptual studies through to a fully developed project that is producing. And here again, we have categories, but in this case, we have 4 instead of 3. F1 again being the best one. And in this case, it's technical feasibility of a development project that has been confirmed. And the F-axis also has its subcategories that range from 1.1 to 4.3. And finally, we have the G-axis, that is the degree of confidence in the estimate of the quantities of products from the project. Here we also, as the F-axis, we also have 4 categories. G1 being the best one, having the highest confidence. And the G-axis also has its subcategories, but only for G4. So we have 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. So how it works, as I mentioned before, we have the 3 categories that determine the class of the project. So in this case, a 1.1 would be the most desirable outcome because it would be a viable project. So having an E1, F1, and G1 would be the best option. This is represented in this 3-dimensional framework, but it can also be represented in a 2D framework, as we can see here in the table, where you have the class and the categories. And in order to make it a little bit more complex and provide even more granularity, we not only have subcategories, but we also have subclasses, as we can see here in the table. For example, for the class viable projects, we have the subclasses on production, approved for development, and justified for development, and so on for the other classes. So moving on, all this explanation I provided is supported by documents and by literature. As we can see here, there's a sort of hierarchy. We have at the top of the hierarchy the principles, followed by the rules, and at the bottom the guidelines. So we have the UNFC and generic specifications with the supplementary specifications that are for mineral and anthropogenic resources. And then we have the guidance, that these are non-mandatory guidance, but it's a manual that guides how to classify. And then we have the bridging documents. As you may all know, there is not only one classification system, there are more. So these documents bridge UNFC to the other classification systems. So yeah, again here the supplementary specification. So UNFC is applied to all energy and resources projects. So specification documents provide additional details as to how a resource classification system is to be applied, supplementing the framework definitions of that system. And we have the mineral and anthropogenic resources specifications. And here again, the bridging documents, here we have the definition, that is a document that explains the relationship between UNFC and another classification system, including instructions and guidelines on how to classify estimates generated by application of that system using the UNFC numerical codes. And here we have just some examples of these systems and the bridging. And so now to start to wrap up, why UNFC? What are the benefits of using UNFC? So UNFC allows consistent comparison within and across multiple commodities. It is globally deployed and endorsed by the UN ECOSOC for application. As I try to explain, it is simple to use. It has 3 categories, E, F, G, that leads to 3 basic classes, viable, potentially viable, and non-viable. Then it also combines all resources such as energy, minerals, and groundwater. It informs of environmental, social, and governmental issues at local, regional, and national level. UNFC also improves financial resilience, and it also derives necessary social, environmental, economic outcomes with its E-axis. And it is also important because it helps speeding decision-making. So to wrap up, the main key takeaways that we would like to leave you with is that UNFC is a generic project and principle-based classification system. It is based on 3 fundamental criteria. Each criterion is subdivided into 3 or 4 defined categories, and its consistent classification depends on careful application of category definitions. So thank you, and I'll leave the floor to Mimi.
So back on track. So let's get started. So there we go. Perfect. So thanks, Victoria. I'll move on with the UNRMS, which stands for United Nations Resource Management System. It is a comprehensive resource management system for sustainable development that supports and enables the implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It provides a principle-based and structured approach for governments, industries, and communities to manage natural resources efficiently. So it's not only restricted to the industry, but all stakeholders that are involved. And similar to the UNFC, it is uniformly applicable to all resources. So it is designed to be a global voluntary system for resource management to be used by governments, industries, investors, and civil society. It is innovative, integrated resource management framework for resources that support the development of policies and regulations in sustainable management of resources and advancement of SDGs. So it is also a comprehensive information framework and methodology to support resource progression, applicable for program, portfolio, project, and asset level management. So you have a little bit of granularity there in terms of how big you want to apply it. And it is also a sustainability framework to aid the financing of resource sectors, similar to UNFC. But they work more as a complementary to one another. So the purpose of the UNRMS is to ensure integrated and sustainable management of natural resources for the benefit of present and future generations. UNRMS provides an integrated framework for responsible production and use of resources, so it's easier to think of it as a versatile Swiss Army knife, which it addresses sustainability and technological challenges. It leverages high-impact technologies for efficient resource discovery, modeling, extraction, and processing. We'll get more into that in the next slide. And it supports a sustainable future by optimizing resource use while minimizing environmental impact. So the UNRMS has 12 key principles, which you can see on the little diagram on the left. It includes the fundamental principles and requirements of resource management for sustainable development. The system will also have tools to assist analysis and decision making. And so at the bottom in the small box, you can see the toolkit concepts. So we have something called the Clean Energy Index, service orientation and the use and reuse of resources. So this is the circularity part that Erica mentioned earlier, resource supply system, blockchain and machine learning, artificial intelligence model for resource management, as well as a critical raw materials dashboard. Within the EGRM system, the UNRMS subgroup, which you can refer back to the original diagram, is tasked with the development and the maintenance of UNRMS. So if you refer, for time purposes, we'll not dive into the details, but you can definitely refer to the document we mentioned earlier. So how does one use the UNRMS? So it is, as mentioned, a principles-based system with its 12 principles that can serve the different needs of stakeholders. It is flexible and adaptable to different contexts and scenarios. So it can do resource assessment and reporting, which it provides a common language and a consistent approach for classifying, communicating resource information across different resource types and regions. And this works in line with UNFC that Victoria introduced. Resource management and planning. The UNRMS helps to identify and prioritize resource opportunities and risks to optimize resource allocation and utilization. Resource governance and regulation. The UNRMS supports the development and implementation of resource policies and regulations that are aligned with SDGs, other international standards, and best practices. And lastly, resource financing and investment. UNRMS facilitates the access and mobilization of capital for resource projects and programs. It also enhances the transparency and accountability of resource sectors. So yeah, kind of breeze through the entire thing, but just a simple conclusion, it is guided by 12 principles and accompanying requirements and is uniformly applicable to all resources. The Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, ECOSOC, has endorsed the UNRMS, urging its global application for sustainable resource management. And the UNRMS supports the UN Secretary General's panel on critical energy transition minerals, principles, and recommendations. So next, I'll hand it over to Gabby.
Yeah.
Thank you, and good to see everyone present with us today. Just a technical question. How do we move from there? Should I signal you to go to the next presentation?
Yes, please
Probably.
say next.
Okay, I'll just shout next. Well, again, greetings to everyone. I'm Gadi Sabra from a PhD student in the Politecnico di Torino, so the Polytechnic University of Torino, and supporting the EGRM Secretariat. Now that we learned a little on UNFC and UNRMS, I'll be presenting briefly the driving engines of UNFC deployment and implementation in the EU. Starting with, if you can go to the next slide, please. Yes, so the main drivers here on the implementation of UNFC in Europe are first and foremost the European Commission funded project led by UNECE, of course, on the development of and implementation of UNFC and UNRMS in EU and beyond. This project has been ongoing since 2020, and we're currently in phase 2. More can be taught on this project on the UNECE webpage, which we will learn more and more later from my colleague Clara. Another main driver is the network of practitioners, which is basically a network of UNFC experts scattered around Europe, mostly from geological surveys and environmental agencies on both primary and secondary raw materials that work together to better understand the UNFC in practice, how to apply UNFC to primary and secondary raw materials. Another main driver was the UNFC Guidance Europe, which is a set of guidelines on how to apply UNFC to European raw materials, mostly for governmental authorities and users per se, on how to maintain minerals or raw materials database, which we call in the UNFC jargon national or regional raw materials inventory. Another pillar is the EU database of critical raw materials project that has been ongoing since 2018. This initiative is led by DG GROW of the European Commission, where on a voluntary basis, where member states report on active or ongoing critical raw materials projects to the Commission, and these projects are classified in UNFC. However, now the dynamic has changed in light of the Critical Raw Materials Act, which I will get to in a few. Lastly, a lot of Horizon Europe projects contain UNFC-related activities that the UNECE and EGRM does look over and keep the coordination ongoing. These projects include the Geological Service for Europe, or the GSEU project, as well as Futuram, mostly focusing on secondary raw materials, as well as other projects. Now, the core driver of this UNFC engine, let's say in Europe, and now in light of these recent developments, is the EU Critical Raw Materials Act, which many of you are familiar with. Next, please. Just to give you a brief shot on what has happened ever since the critical raw material has come into play and was enacted. A lot of EU member states have become more and more ready in terms of UNFC level. You can see since August 2025, this is based on our own or internal analysis, with many countries being at high or moderate readiness level. High meaning that there is national adaptation, either via regulatory or legislative implementation of UNFC through direct application, or via bridging mechanism from national systems to UNFC, as well as a pool of trained UNFC experts present in or within national frameworks. Low readiness level is yet to be more explored. This pertains mostly to member states with no national or legally binding national classification system. However, the progress is ongoing, and hopefully the outcome would be a high readiness level to all EU member states. Next. Also, just a brief snapshot here, just to tell you that UNFC is not or is familiar to EU raw materials. Many case studies have been conducted over the years on European raw materials from primary and secondary. These case studies are all available on the webpage. We will learn later more on where to find them with my colleague Clara. Next. Also, secondary raw materials are quite well studied in terms of UNFC, mostly spearheaded by the Horizon Europe project Futuram, on different waste streams, whether from WEEs or mine waste, etc., and tailings, etc. Next. Now, the core motive of UNFC employment, spearheading this deployment in the EU, as you're all aware of, is the Critical Raw Materials Act, which came into force in May 2024, if I'm not mistaken, where UNFC has been mentioned under 4 different streams or 4 different articles, starting with strategic projects, mostly pertaining to industry or project promoters, where they're required to classify their strategic projects applications or proposals in UNFC when applying to the Commission for Recognition. The 3 other streams pertain to member states when reporting back to the Commission. Firstly, on national exploration programs, where the results from these programs are required to be classified in UNFC. Risk monitoring, for monitoring purposes, UNFC is mandated for monitoring new projects, reporting from the member states to the European Commission. And lastly, on extractive waste, where UNFC is required when reporting on extractive waste facilities. Next, please. Now, many ask why UNFC has been included in the Critical Raw Materials Act. Of course, because it supports the objectives of the Act. As we saw earlier, that UNFC is applicable along all the value chain, starting from early exploration, such as the case of national exploration programs, all the way to mining, processing, and recycling. It also incorporates environmental and social performance. So here, moving more towards an ESG focused approach rather than just economic based. Monitoring, again, UNFC is dynamic. It's not static. It could be a snapshot over time, but it also monitors the development, the maturity, the viability of projects over time, which is quite useful in the sense of CIRMA and Critical Raw Materials Act, and its objective. Another thing, as mentioned, many national and international reporting systems have been translated into UNFC. So here it provides this flexibility to reporting systems, whether nationally or internationally, to apply UNFC through a translation or a bridging mechanism. As Victoria mentioned earlier, it is simple to use. It's pretty straightforward based on 3 fundamental criteria. And most importantly, it allows the application to other resources and energy projects, which allows for, again, cross-resource comparison. Another point here is that since many national and international systems can be translated to UNFC, this also allows for cross-country comparison and a better regional look in the case of the EU. Next, please. Yes, just to mention again, UNFC Guidance Europe is available online. I will not dig into it that much. If you can move next, please. It's available. It's also targeting users and qualified experts and resource estimates. I do apologize, just conscious of time. I will not burrow into the technicalities of such documents. Next, please. I think you're sharing not the right. Okay, it doesn't matter. First, the UNECE's worked towards supporting strategic projects. As you're all aware of, the first call of strategic projects applications amassed over 170 applications. Granted, only 60 were recognized, 47 from EU and 13 from third countries, if I'm not mistaken. However, this translates into 170 new projects classified in UNFC, spanning from extraction, processing, recycling, and substitution, which constitutes a large database of primary and secondary raw materials classified in UNFC. Next, please. So the first stream of support to strategic projects was aimed at project promoters or industry per se, those operators seeking strategic project title or recognition. Firstly, starting by scheduling or holding 2 different trainings tailored for the application of UNFC to strategic projects for project promoters. 2 more in light of the recent open call. The second one, if you're all aware of, is open now for industry to apply for strategic projects recognition. with a cutoff date in mid-January 2026, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 UNFC trainings are scheduled, one on the 16th of October, the other on the 12th of November. We'll share the details once it's ready to be promoted. These trainings were supported by a detailed guidance to facilitate basically or simplify the application of UNFC for project promoters, guided by guiding principles, a top-down approach, as in having a bird-eye view first and foremost on your projects, and then digging into the subclasses, the categories, and the subcategories as you move on with the project details. These are linked by controlling factors which determine or help you or direct you towards a consistent and coherent classification in UNFC. These controlling factors are pretty much determined by the strategic projects application form, which is available on the Commission's website. Another thing we've done is the establishment of the UNECE EGRM help desk, which supports project promoters with any queries or concerns, of course, UNFC related, that they have as they go through their application process. Next, please. So the guidance document that was provided can be mainly summarized into 3 different guiding principles. It was necessary to assure project operators that UNFC is not a determining factor in the recognition of strategic projects. This means that whether your project has been classified as viable, potentially viable, or different classes as well, it is only used to assess the project's strength and gaps, understand the caveats, the bottlenecks, etc. So it is not a determining factor per se, but it's mostly used for the Commission and other stakeholders to better understand what needs to be done to take the project further, etc., etc. And however, it is a crucial, or how do I say, a criteria for application, excuse me. Following one other guiding principle is the 2-step classification process. So after the first classification by the project promoters, during the technical assessment phase that is led by the European Commission along with other experts, one of these experts is a UNFC expert that verifies this classification and notes whether the project promoter has classified the project correctly or appropriately in UNFC. And of course, lastly is the guidance for strategic outcomes, how to use UNFC to better your decision making, understanding again the barriers, the opportunities, whether the issue with a certain project is permitting related or financial, etc. Next, please. Next, please. These are the old ones. Again, this is the strategic projects, more on the technicalities. The second stream of support to strategic projects pertains to UNFC experts via the technical assessment phase. And the main objective here was to support these experts with a guidance on how to evaluate strategic projects in UNFC, but ensuring that at the end of the assessment phase, all the verifications are harmonized so that the UNFC is consistent and coherent along with the evaluation process, so that the end classification or the projects that were classified in UNFC all portray the same evaluation and assessment process. Next, please. These are some supporting tables that you can find in the document itself. Next, please. Next, please. Also, evaluation grid in order to streamline the harmonization, supported by additional instructions also available on the webpage. Next, please. Oh, okay. Here is a work in progress on basically how to understand UNFC in terms of monitoring by basically pairing the UNFC classification of the different projects, of the selected strategic projects, with the demand forecast here, in order to better understand the supply risk and contribution potential, as in whether a certain or these set of projects will contribute to the Critical Raw Materials Act benchmark set for extraction, processing, recycling, and diversification. Next, please. This also leads to a very important aspect, which is policy relevant patterns, by classifying the different strategic raw materials from each project in UNFC, with the excess representing volumes. Of course, this is just for illustrative purposes. The Commission, along with the stakeholders, can better understand the caveats, the bottlenecks, and the opportunities offered or facing the projects themselves, whether it's an investment issue or a permitting issue, etc., which is also tied to the contribution potential. Next, please. Now, since we're presenting for the Italian Observatory on Critical Raw Materials, I wanted to showcase some of the activities happening in Italy pertaining to the UNFC and critical raw materials. I saw a very much familiar names and faces here present with us. So if I do say something, please do correct me. Just back on the provisions of the UNFC within the Critical Raw Materials Act, when it comes to Italy, this could be translated into the following slide, please. Next.
Gadi,
Yes.
you know the technical problems we had. We're going to switch to Miwu's computer now.
Gadi, do you want to share from your computer instead?
Let me share from my computer because I have the updated ones.
Yeah.
Can you stop sharing, please?
Yeah.
The pause share.
Here.
Okay. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So again, back to the UNFC provisions and how they translate within the Italian jurisdictions or frameworks. So strategic projects are, of course, covered by project operators or project promoters, industry per se. The national exploration programs are covered by ISPRA or the Geological Survey, and they have recently published their exploration program. The risk monitoring is covered by two different ministries, the Ministry of Industry or MASE for extraction and, Ministry of Environment or MASE for extraction and recycling projects, whereas the Ministry of Industry or MIMIT for processing projects, and extractive waste again by the Geological Survey through, for example, the GEMMA database that they have been developing on mapping the extractive waste within the Italian territory. Just to show you as well, from the past or the first call for application, 4 different strategic projects in Italy have been selected or recognized as strategic, 4 on recycling projects spanning over different strategic raw materials from platinum, from PGM, rare earth, lithium, and copper and nickel. But I just wanted to showcase here that these projects have been classified in UNFC in accordance with the objectives of the Critical Raw Materials Act. Again, just to tell you that several trainings, webinars, and activities have been conducted, including this one, over the past period on UNFC into Italian raw materials, with the last one being organized for the Ministry of Industry, where we showcased the application of UNFC for monitoring purposes in Italy and beyond, of course, just in order to streamline the activities with the objectives of the Critical Raw Materials Act. One of the case studies that has been published on the ECE webpage is a UNFC application in Italy to the Piampaludo Titanium project. This is a parliamentary document that is available online, of course, and just to go briefly on it, I invite you all to go through it and read it. It's an exciting case. If you're not aware of it, Piampaludo holds one of the largest titanium deposits in Europe, yet it remains bounded by social and environmental constraints. This case study aimed to introduce UNFC to Italy. It was first of its kind, and classifying the project, of course, by providing a new approach based on publicly available information. It serves to understand better sustainable decision making when it comes to resource management, and also serve the Ligurian or the regional mineral inventory, as well as the national, if that was an initiative to be taken. Another interesting aspect of the case study itself is to show how UNFC is dynamic throughout different permitting timelines or judicial decisions or regulatory decision. You can see how the E-axis per se, the environmental, socio-economic viability fluctuates from E1 to E2 to E3 based on court decisions, regulations, permitting, etc. One more straightforward application has a mineral resource estimate publicly reported via or following the York hello.
We lost you for a second, but now we can hear you again.
You're still with me. Okay, perfect. So this Gorno project has reported its mineral resources publicly following the York Code, part of the Crisco template. With that, knowing that there is indicated and inferred resources following what Victoria mentioned earlier, the bridging document, a simple translating mechanism can be done for us to classify the project from the Crisco template, or York in that case, to UNFC. So the Gorno project classifies its indicated and inferred resources as E2, F2, G2 for indicated, and 3 for inferred. This can also be translated into the table below as a minerals inventory. And lastly, just to say, and this is mostly a plug for myself, an ongoing or publication that is coming soon on applying UNFC for national raw materials inventory in Italy, built on primary raw materials based on 3 different data sets from public reporting or statutory reports, historic data, and extrapolated geological occurrences, with a focus on critical raw materials national inventory. This is yet to be published, but I'm happy to share it with the network for whoever's interested. With that, I would stop and deeply apologize for the time I took. Thank you.
Good. I think you need to continue to share because something is wrong with our presentation. For Clara. Are you ready?
Hello.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the slides to charge. Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to explain quickly what is the Knowledge Hub that we created and that we are live with on our website. So if you can go on the next slide, please. Thank you. So the Knowledge Hub is a central platform on our UNECE website where people can get all information, and for all stakeholders, whatever your level is in UNFC and UNRMS. So on all information on UNFC and UNRMS. So this platform is in one place, very well organized, structured, and everything is available there and updated with time as well. So each time there's something new, it will be added to there on this platform, and there is all kind of information and all kind of presentations, videos as well, PDFs, Excel files, etc. If you go on the next slide, please. So it's divided in three on the website. There's first the training material, then a library that is kind of a big basis for the training material, and then FAQs. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here on the training material, which is the big part of the Knowledge Hub, we are divided in four parts. First of all, there's the introduction to UNFC and UNRMS. So it's for people who really have no idea what it is. Like me, for example, when I started working at UNECE beginning of January 2025, this part of the Knowledge Hub would have been very useful for me. Then we have for people who are a bit more advanced, which is the applying UNFC and UNRMS. Here we find video, and it's a guide for practical implementation of UNFC and UNRMS in various sectors. Then we have the advanced UNFC and UNRMS, and it offers in-depth training that is tailored for, first of all, government and organizations. So it's policy formulation and resource management. And then we have for the industry, which is information for operational application in order to develop and manage energy and resource projects. And then we have for strategic project evaluators. So it's to verify UNFC application to strategic projects based on project viability and maturity. Last but not least, we have the national and regional applications, which showcases case studies and application of UNFC and UNRMS in specific regions. So this is updated with time. We also have ICSRMs, which are the Centers of Excellence websites that we have added there. So it's really for everyone to compare, to learn from everyone else. If you go on the next slide, please. Here, then is the library. So there's a big glossary with all terms in order to have all definitions and to understand everything with nothing left behind. And also we added a link for all the main documents that we find on our website, including applications, UNFC materials, case studies, and resources on UNFC and UNRMS. Can you please, thank you. And then the FAQs, which are the frequently asked questions about UNFC and UNRMS. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is where it's located on our UNECE website. So it's in the Sustainable Energy tab. And then we find right under Activities SRM Knowledge Hub. Next slide, please. I've added before, sorry, on the slide, the link to the Knowledge Hub if you want to go. Here, what's next for us? So as I said previously, we're developing the content with time. So if there's something new, we will add it to the Knowledge Hub. So it's really something that is updated and up to date all the time. And we also are also working on a new training module. So it will be like kind of 2-hour beginning friendly module for beginners on the application of UNFC and UNRMS. So it will be an interactive quiz and it will be a structured learning experience. Each time we have an update, we post it on LinkedIn. So don't hesitate to follow us on LinkedIn to see what we are updating and what's new in our Knowledge Hub. So thank you for your time.
There with our presentations. So we apologize for running over time, but we are open for questions if you have any. I saw that Elisabetta had one question about the Italian Ministry of Environment. So all coordination of government stakeholders to the Critical Raw Materials Act goes through the CRMA board and the subgroups. But when member states or parts of member states reach out to us, we are happy to oblige, interact, support, giving trainings. And we are planning to have a special training or an introductory training for all environmental or EPAs in the EU, or not only EPAs, but those dealing with the classification of secondary raw material projects from the government side for the purpose of monitoring. So it could be the EPA in case of mine waste. It's often the geological surveys dealing with that. So we're building that community as we speak. But the main coordination takes place through the Critical Raw Materials Act, the board of that, of the act itself. Any other questions? I just wanted to take the opportunity to repeat that we're always here. You can always reach out, send us an email, set up a meeting, and we'll try to help you as best we can to get this going for you.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I would like to thank you, Erika and colleagues, very much for your time and your effort. Of course, as you said, this has been a first meeting opportunity to share what UNECE is doing, and as you said, we hope that this can facilitate further interactions with between our network and UNECE. Paolo, I don't know if you want to.
Yes, thank you, Giuseppe. I thank you again, Erika, and your team for joining. Obviously, you provided us a lot of precious information. We will be happy to share them within our networks, and for sure, several questions and touching points will emerge, and we will happy to make a bridge within between our network and your institution. Of course, the activity of the observatory, with particular reference to international activities, will go further. We will be happy to organize also with you several other appointments and workshops that will help share best practices and deep dives into the topics that we addressed today and also others. And this will be the occasion of the activities that we are arranging with our members, with particular reference to a series of working groups that we are going to activate, led by key actors within our networks that will take care of managing the works of this working group on specific topics that will help us producing several reports that will facilitate us to organize several public debates on these specific topics and reports, in which we will be also happy to involve you, Erika, and the team of UNECE of your team, of course. And this will lead us to the organization of our let's say flagship appointment, the Symposio that will be held next year, basing on also the elements that will emerge from our debates as described. So thanking you all again for your participation and contribution. I repeat that all the materials will be will be shared with you together with the registration of the meeting, so you will have the occasion to go in deeper in the details of the presentation, and maybe have other direct exchange occasion, and we will keep in touch with all of you for the followings.
Yeah, thanks again for giving us the opportunity to give this presentation, and we would look forward to continue collaborating and networking with you and your network. So thank you again from all of us to all of you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Bye.
Perfect.
Thank you all so much. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.